I am Sharon Thompsonowak. I am Director of Fellowship Programs here at Longwood. The machines are not quite ready to take over the world. Mulukan Kebede, a current fellow, is going to join me in a few minutes, but for some reason his laptop has decided it no longer acknowledges or takes ownership of the camera. So we are working that out. He will be joining me in a few minutes. But in the meantime, I am going to kick us off with a brief overview of the Fellows Program. Muluken will join me to give you some insights into what it is like to be a fellow and share some information about his experience. Hopefully, we will be able to answer all of your questions and get you the information that you need to make a decision about whether the Fellows Program is right for you at this point in your career. As a quick reminder, we are recording this for the sake of those who could not join us live. So I am pretty sure this is set up so that questions go into either chat or Q&A. And we have tech support here from Longwood. My colleague, Nicole Crum, is monitoring that feed and will be sharing questions as we go. So just be aware that your questions will be part of our recorded conversation. So thank you for making time for this webinar today. Like I said, hopefully we'll get you the information you need, but as we go, feel free to just put those questions in and we will make sure that we answer them. So let me start by giving you a little bit of information about Longwood Gardens, which is about 30 miles outside of Philadelphia in southeastern Pennsylvania on the east coast of the United States. Years before it became a public garden in 1906, Longwood was home to the Lenni Lenape people and Quaker farmers. So it has been in good hands for a long time. Since Pierre DuPont acquired it a little over 100 years ago, it has become one of the great gardens of the world. We're currently welcoming anywhere between 1.6 and 1.8 million guests here in the gardens each year and serving tens of thousands through our virtual programs as well. Our goal is to contribute to society through those diverse educational programs, horticultural and scientific research, environmental stewardship, and cultural and community engagement. So here you can see our mission statement in picture of our conservatory. We very much think of the Fellows Program as part of our service to the public horticulture sector globally. It's also a core part of our efforts to pursue IDEA principles, or the acronym that we use in horticulture, of course, inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, and to really make sure that we are investing in deep and wide talent pools. So the Fellows Program is one way that we support and elevate talent that might be otherwise overlooked. And it is an embodiment of our core values. So those values are excellence, professional leadership, fiscal alignment, stewardship, and community engagement. And the Fellows Program is really designed to equip leaders that they need with the skills to support industry health over the long term. I love this portrait of Muluken, who is, of course, the fellow who is hopefully fighting through technical difficulties to join us in a few moments. But the Fellows Program is a focused 13-month experience designed for current or aspiring public horticulture leaders. It's really part of the legacy of innovation that we have from Longwood's founders, and it's an evolution of the Longwood Graduate Program that started in 1967. The Fellows Program was redesigned with input from organizational partners and public horticulture leaders in 2017. So Muluken is part of the 6th cohort under the new model, and he will be graduating at the end of next month. So he's on the home stretch here. So what is the Fellows Program designed to do? We graft theory with practice, with an eye to that end goal of preparing graduates for that long-term impact. We use the simple sort of operating framework that, excuse me, I'm skipping ahead here, that leadership means working with a group of people to achieve a goal. So leadership combines some sense of vision and goal with a group of people and being able to move them toward that goal. So for us, leadership can be a set of skills that are both teachable and measurable. We fully recognize and embrace that leadership styles vary from person to person. So the program does provide continual opportunities for fellows to develop self-awareness and try different strategies related to communication and teamwork. We do a lot of confidence developing and refining tools they need to achieve their career goals. So this program goal is supported by many inputs, as you can see here. We try to make sure that our curriculum and the various elements in the program are frequently refreshed so that we can make sure that we continue to meet the needs of both our alumni and the public horticulture sector. That includes not only looking at sort of our internal strategies, but making sure that we are getting frequent and regular feedback from our alumni, our industry partners, and those who are leading in other sectors as well, and then making sure that we're delivering at the highest levels of adult learning theory and looking at the competencies that people need. We think of the curriculum in terms of spheres of impact, or really where the fellows can have influence. Context is such an important part of leadership work. And so we try to give fellows the opportunity to get that comprehensive look at scale and reach in terms of what public gardens and arboreta can really do. So what does the program look like? It typically looks like a cohort of 4 to 6 individuals who live together at Longwood throughout the program. We do use classroom-based discussion to lay the groundwork for ideas and concepts, but the program really comes to life through project work and through doing. So there is a series of individual, partner, and group projects that fellows undertake throughout the year. This is sort of within the scope of a set of requirements, but the fellows have quite a bit of latitude in terms of pursuing topics that they're interested in and sort of what that project will look like. So in addition to the projects, the fellows have lots of opportunities to expand networks, attend conferences, host dinners, engage in learning tours with other organizations, and then participate in social events throughout the year, of course. And next year is a big, big year for Longwood. We are opening a new conservatory and sort of hospitality suite. So the cohort that is coming in this next summer will be part of sort of the on-ramping or kind of lifting off of those different resources. So it's a great time to be at Longwood to look at how an organization is going through that season of change. So I mentioned learning by doing. Fellows are Longwood employees while they're here. And so during the program, the kind of 2 main job requirements are to think and to do, and to provide evidence of both of those activities. So again, we use the classroom as a way to introduce fellows to current theory around leadership, management, public horticulture, trends, issues. We also have partnerships with universities like the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan, Temple University, Indiana University, Harvard. We sort of access programs at those various institutions to make sure that areas where we can't give fellows years of experience, we can give them an industry recognized credential. So fundraising and financial planning, strategic planning are one of the ways that we do that to make sure that fellows are really equipped to hit the ground running when they leave the program. So classroom in our case means both at Longwood and then also at different university partners. That is coupled by opportunities to apply learning. I mentioned the projects that happen. This includes a sort of sustained cohort level industry focused research project that we very creatively call the Cohort Project. This is sort of developed in partnership and in conversation with organizations through the American Public Gardens Association network, so the APGA folks. It's really focused on kind of practical tool development for organizations and leaders. And then we ask that fellows immerse themselves in a department at Longwood. That is also a leadership exercise. So fellows really get to shape what that project looks like, choose the team at Longwood they want to work with, and really have the opportunity to move that forward. And then in the spring, typically February and March, we will send fellows to a partner. Most of our US-based fellows will go internationally to one of our partners outside of the US, and then our international fellows will stay in the US but go to a different region. With that, we also have a number of individual projects. One I will talk about a little bit more in a minute. It is an opportunity to kind of develop a leadership philosophy that can be as customized as any fellow would like to make it. So to that work, we really add a focus on professional network expansion. You've probably heard the expression, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But we find that it's also important why they know you and what the reputation is that you are building as a leader and as a professional. So we do spend quite a bit of time sort of thinking about how to bring people into those strategic networks. What does it look like to be a fellow? This is kind of the high-level Gantt chart view of a year at a glance. You can see how we sort of break that curriculum down across those areas of influence. Obviously we spend some time on onboarding, we set aside time for the classroom sessions. The flex curriculum is basically a fund that we set aside for each fellow to use as they see fit. So fellows are able to say, okay, well, I think I'm getting enough on organizational behavior in the classroom, but I'm not quite getting enough on what have people done recently? I'd like to present this work at a conference, for example, something that the program isn't doing for individual fellows. So the flex budget or the flex curriculum is really an opportunity for fellows to kind of design that learning program for themselves and figure out what they need to add to the program. Fellows do go to 2 APGA conferences. The first one happens at the beginning of the program. It's where fellows do a poster presentation and get ideas for the project they'll be working on throughout the year. And then the second conference is at the end of the program, surprise, surprise, where fellows present the work that they have been doing. Throughout the year, they do attend board meetings at Longwood and board committee meetings. So it's a front row seat to the highest levels of strategic and operational work at Longwood. They have the chance to do the same with staff committee meetings throughout the year. Salons are what we call our learning tours, where we go and visit other institutions, meet with the leadership, figure out what challenges they are tackling and how they are doing that, and really use our partner and peer institutions as sort of living case studies. Thought leader dinners are a part of the strategic networking piece that I mentioned. It is an opportunity for fellows to invite leaders and potential partners to Longwood. They serve as hosts and they can engage on a sort of personal professional level or the professional socialization. The project work is scheduled throughout the year. So here you see 30 over 56. This is what we call our leadership philosophy statement project. 30 is the minimum number of ideas or concepts that the fellows are requested to consider as they build this philosophy. And 56 is typically the number of weeks that fellows spend with us. So 30 ideas over 56 weeks. We have scaffolding in place to really encourage fellows to keep those pieces in conversation with each other and figure out what their own leadership practice will look like on the other end of the program. Fellows do a lot of work facilitating and presenting. Those are core skills for every leader, and we want to make sure people are equipped to do that. The departmental immersion I talked about a little bit, and the cohort project I talked about as well. Field placement is what we call that 2-month period where fellows go and work on a defined project with a particular partner. That is a facilitated match, so fellows will consider the type of experience that they need to fill any gaps on their resume. We look at our list of partner institutions and we try to figure out if the timing is good for people to go and work on developing those skills with one of our partners. So there's a lot of process behind all of this, but fellows are pretty busy throughout the year, as you can see. We try along the way to provide support through a variety of different matrices. We have mentoring through a partner or through Longwood staff, typically the senior team members. Executive coaching is provided through generally certified coaches who are outside of the Longwood staff. And then we'll have weekly check-ins, some ongoing feedback, reflection writing, lots and lots of assessments for fellows to get some window into different skill sets. And so there's a lot of opportunity for accelerated growth and really individualized and personalized growth. What are we looking for? The program offers a lot. And so, I think the average fellow comes into the program with a lot. Every cohort is a little bit different based on the people who are in that cohort. But fundamentally, we are looking for people who can tell us why this program is the right next step in their careers. So why you, why now, why this program? We sort of have the curriculum and the classroom-based pieces that reflect what we think that fellows need to know at this point in the leadership landscape in public horticulture. But we're interested in knowing sort of how this fits into your plan for yourself and sort of what you are hoping to get out of this particular opportunity. I will draw your attention to the last bullet point on this list, the 5+ years of work experience. That can be paid, it can be volunteer, it can be full-time, it can be part-time. I wouldn't, if that is the thing that you are wondering about in your own qualifications, I would say reach out. Don't let that be a hindrance in terms of wondering whether you are ready for this particular program. But basically, we're looking for people who are curious and open and want to take ownership of their own learning process while contributing to and learning from a group of close peers. We learn a ton from fellows at Longwood as staff members, and so it's a real treat for us to invite accomplished and interesting and creative people to come and hang out with us during the fellows program year. I thought it might be helpful for you to kind of see where people are typically coming from into the fellows program. We sort of use this mid-career professional term as a bucket for, kind of where people are in their careers. Most of our participants or most of our fellows are career advancers. They're coming from backgrounds in horticulture. They have some training in, hands-on plant work. They may have been promoted from a horticulturalist to a manager and are ready to really level up and try to prepare for that executive level. But we do also have a number of people who are here either as career changers, they built their professional experience in banking or finance or some other industry and found horticulture as a essentially passion career. And then we have a number of folks who are here on sabbatical. Those are typically people who are coming from academic or government backgrounds, institutions that have that longer term sabbatical structure. You can see that the bulk of our fellows go on to clear career advancement. I would say to you that all of them are contributing in some meaningful way. And I think this post-program number is pretty interesting because I will say to you, it's possible that you can come in here saying you are going to be, leader of the entire public horticulture world, and halfway through the program decide, you know what, I'm much more satisfied. I'm well positioned to be an individual contributor. Working with teams isn't quite my thing. The program is valuable for people who kind of make that choice as well. And that is certainly something that we value, and recognize that a career is a long-term prospect, and what people are interested in coming into the program and leaving the program may shift a lot and really reflects a lot of sort of growth and development. So we are very much interested in kind of partnering to walk with you as far down the road as you can see, and hopefully help you really dream big about the potential impact that you can have. So I'm going to give you one more slide, and then hopefully Muluken will be able to join me here. I think it looks like the video feed is connected, so I'm hoping that that is actually the case. This is the timeline that we are looking at. The application period will open in just a few weeks on June 1st. It's open for 2 full months. The application period, the application packet includes a number of different pieces of information, sort of basic demographics, how you heard about the program, that kind of thing, resume and cover letter, and then short essay responses to questions like, tell us about a leadership challenge that you overcame, tell us why you're interested in the program, tell us about your leadership values. So we're asking for sort of short reflections on those particular topics, and then also requesting letters of reference from 3 people who can speak to the quality of your work. Again, these can be people you've worked with in professional settings, volunteer settings, personal settings, but somebody who can give us some sense of your working style and who you are as a professional. And then we have a selection committee that includes people from a number of different organizations around the world. They will convene in the late summer to select people to come to Longwood for in-person interviews. That will happen in November this year. And the expenses for that are, of course, covered by Longwood. If you are invited to come for an interview, we will pay for you to come to an interview. And then we are going to be preparing to welcome this cohort of fellows in May 2025. So this is tied, these dates are tied to the APGA annual conference. We always start 2 weeks before that conference and then end when the following conference happens the following year. So the particular dates for this cohort are here on the screen. So hopefully that gives you some sense of kind of the scope and timing. One other thing I will add on the front of numbers. So, we've talked about the curriculum investment, we've talked about living at Holly Hill. Of course, all of that is paid for by Longwood. We are making a six-figure investment in each fellow. But I will say that the stipend that fellows receive, because they are considered Longwood employees, so you do get paid for being in this program. The sort of in-pocket stipend is $30,000 a year, so $1,153 every 2 weeks, deposited as a biweekly paycheck. Longwood will also cover health benefits and insurance for you and any dependents, and then contribute to retirement account. So the stipend is $30,000. The flex budget, so the money that fellows have to travel, attend conferences, take additional courses, is another $8,000. And then there is a budget for wardrobe, for professional wardrobe, which is an additional $500. And then we provide the other benefits, the sort of curriculum investment, the housing, the healthcare, those types of things in addition to that. But I did want to be clear about those numbers because that is a huge factor in deciding whether or not this is the right time in your career to embark upon something like this. Okay, I promise you, I do not usually yammer on at this length. Muluken, do we have tech liftoff? Are you able to join us here?
Yes, I can. Finally.
Okay, wonderful. It's so nice to see you. And thank you so much for making time to meet with the folks here and to share a little bit about your experience as a fellow. So I wonder if you wouldn't mind just starting by telling us about you, telling us what you were doing before you came to the Fellows Program and how you got interested in doing this.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm glad that finally the technology is resolved. uh, so I joined the fellows program from Ethiopia. So I was current at the time living in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, running a landscape design and construction business, which I founded in 2015, and also running other nonprofits and environmental initiatives that work with urban mobility, green space reclaiming, and initiatives related in the environmental movement technically. But I heard about the Fellows Program in 2016 when I came to the United States to have some experience sharing with the University of Delaware. I think at the time, the Longwood Fellows Program used to be called the Graduates Program. I get to meet the director, heard about the program. So that was kind of my first introduction. But at the time, I was not ready to apply for the program because I was starting a business, running other nonprofits, and excited about the things I was doing. But the program was very fascinating for me because of my experience and areas that I was working on. So I was interested, but not ready to apply. So I kind of gave it time. I think about maybe 5, 6 years, I would say, until in 2021, 22, I start to actually pursue the application process. So for me, it was that right time of transitioning to my leadership role and also really advancing my capacity in leadership in public horticulture. So the timing was very critical for me, even though I heard about it like 5 years back, but waiting for the right time to apply. But in Ethiopia, I was a founder and also engaged in leadership positions of running businesses in nonprofit that work in the environment. Did I miss any other question?
Well, I mean, you have such a rich experience prior to coming into this program with the various aspects of your entrepreneurship and, just the specifically social entrepreneurship work that you have done before. I'm going to put you on the spot with a question, but I did pre-screen this question with you for the sake of our audience. You have two very little children. What is it like for your family that you are here at Longwood doing this program?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I think my family have paid a lot of sacrifices for me for this to happen. Even though I still feel like timing is very critical, I would not imagine myself really being part of the program before this, or I don't think I would commit to it after this because it was in some way it was perfect timing, but my family has to really also sacrifice and commit to this. Maybe the other fortunate factor for me is even though I came or joined the program from Ethiopia, they were able to travel with me and live in a different state, but I could get to see them once in a while. But I think that it was one of the biggest challenge, I would say, of the program, not being able to live with your family, but your family have to sacrifice for you a lot, being in different places, and you get to see them maybe once a month or whenever there are holidays or breaks that you can accommodate in those things. But at the same time, I would say like you need that focus and engagement in the program, and in some level it is very demanding and require your full attention. So if you are maybe living with your family, how much time and focus can you give to the program is another thing, because there are a lot of things that you take with you, even after the formal working hour, whether it's your project or reading assignments or different reflections that you do. So I think, yeah, I would still say I'm fortunate that my family is willing to do all those hard separations for a time being. But yeah, it's difficult, challenging, but I was fortunate and able to do it in that situation.
Yeah, I am also very glad that you have been able to spend time with them on a fairly frequent basis. I think the aspect of the fellows program that is possibly the strangest to people outside of the system is the fact that fellows live together at Longwood. So I will just say you are free to come and go. You are not in a cult. You are not in prison. This is a
Yeah.
home, and people, manage their own time. So I wonder if you could speak a little bit to that day-to-day experience of being a fellow. Like, what do you do in an average week?
Yeah, I mean, we also say it's a very weird program in so many ways, but not only the living together part. I mean, we are all grown-up adults, like have families, most of us, and sacrificing that commitment to the program or to our personal leadership development in public horticulture. But at the same time, it's a very packed program, especially the first 8 months of the program is like instructors come in and then teach you about different leadership theories at the moment, and like very timely leadership values. And then you have assessment, you travel to different universities for executive education. I think you mentioned like Michigan Ross and Harvard or Indiana Temple. Some of them are online, but you have very intensive packed program. You wake up in the morning, you might have classrooms starting 8:30 or 8 o'clock, and sometimes your day is fully packed until 5 p.m. Other times you have to travel, visit different gardens, meet with different garden leaders and have those conversations. Other times we have our own plans sometimes to visit gardens and then visit different places. Part of our flex investment is basically to meet different people, travel to different locations, and then have those conversations, or take classes or attend conferences. And we also get to spend a lot of time having meals, cook out, visit different interesting places, go downtown Philadelphia or Kennett Square, attend some mushroom festivals or train for marathons, and have a lot of fun together living. And at the same time, the program also give you that high level, inspiring, engaging educations or instructors coming and assessing you, or giving you tools to really pause and think of where your leadership is really, especially compared to current theories and ideas that will develop your leadership capacity. But also Longwood is also another big asset for us. To even walking in the garden by itself is in so many ways inspiring, but attending the board meeting, having that mentoring one-on-ones with different leaders at Longwood, having those discussions, doing our immersion project, maybe working at the garden, or having to attend some leadership meeting and discussions. So in so many ways, it kind of gives you this all-rounded leadership opportunity to really assess, evaluate, critically think, question some theories or practices, but at the same time, see where you fit in that and in what areas you need to develop. So yeah, I would say I think the first 8 months are fully packed in so many ways. It feels like you have to really engage. And we also have our own led discussions on leadership. So you have those back to back. And then field placement happens. 2 months is also a very engaging practice to go to other gardens somewhere globally or nationally for those of us who travel from other countries to engage in areas that would develop leadership capacity, but at the same time contribute to those organizations. And our cohort project is another big aspect of it. I think it takes a big chunk of time and assessment of what is really valuable for the industry and how we can collaboratively work together to provide that input for the industry. So yeah, we have a lot going on every day, I would say.
Okay, I want to dig into some of those things that you say, but first, a disclaimer for our audience. You are not required to run a marathon as a fellow. You came into this program as a runner. You're one of the few people I know who runs at Longwood for exercise,
Yeah.
and somehow you found time to train for the Philadelphia Marathon back in November. But that is
Yes.
not a requirement of this program.
I think it should be a requirement. I would say just that.
Yeah. Everyone here logs out, not ready for a marathon. Okay, so tell me, you mentioned being able to travel to other gardens. What have you done so far with your Flex curriculum? How did you decide how to use that resource?
Yeah, I think that one is requires a lot of wisdom, intentionality, and planning to really use the Flex budget. When you hear about it, you have $8,000 to spend on your personal leadership plan and areas what that would contribute to your leadership growth. So you think of like, yeah, I can take online classes, or you can attend conferences, or you can travel to different places and meet different leaders. So what I did was basically the first part of it for me was really to visit different gardens. I think I want to go back a little bit and maybe give one background on my understanding of the program when I first joined. So even going back to the application process, I was really saying like, well, I think I invested about 5 years of really understanding what the fellows program is, seeing the program also changing from graduate program to fellows program, what it offers, what I need from it, and how I can actually benefit from the program. So through that process, I have two objectives. One is really that leadership capacity. How could I learn from this best institution, based theories of timely opportunities about leadership that I can develop myself? The other is my knowledge on public horticulture or public gardens in general, because I have a very limited resource when it comes to that, especially in Ethiopia. So when I came here, the whole industry of public garden was completely new industry for me. I mean, we don't have a botanical garden or an arboretum or a public garden that is working in this capacity we're talking. Well, I don't think we even have one. I mean, the name exists, but like none of them have programming. Actually, there's only one. It doesn't have a programming or that public display of garden engagement, education, community engagement. All those things does not exist. It's just a protected forest you can walk into with the different trees. That's it. There is nothing with the level that I understand it here. So I came here, having some of the garden visit makes me feel like, oh my goodness, there are so many inspiring, rich horticultural institutions in this part of the world. So I really need to spend some of my time traveling to those places and meeting those leaders, really understand the capacity and the role they play in the industry. So, but at the same time, field placement was one of the key driver of those garden visit, because the moment I understand that field placement is really working for 2 months in different gardens, in that on one garden about my contribution to the garden, but at the same time, what I would take from those gardens to develop my leadership capacity. So I said, okay, I need to find out which garden align with my experience and also my leadership growth objective, so that I could go meet those garden leaders, spend some time visiting the garden, really see if there is some alignment that I could go back again for the field placement. But the first primary objective was really to visit those gardens, meet those leaders, really understand how that public horticulture industry or botanical garden or arboretums work. So my flex budget was used primarily for that purpose of traveling. I did travel to Denver Botanical Garden, met the garden leaders, and spend time really understanding for 2 3 days. I did also travel to San Antonio and Houston as well, with Houston Botanical Garden leaders, San Antonio Botanical Garden, and Arboretum leaders. And I also traveled to Holden Forest and Gardens and Cleveland, meeting with the leaders, different department leaders, really visiting the garden and understanding what their offerings are and how that would actually benefit me if I decided to go back for the field placement there. But other areas, I bought a lot of books, and some of them are garden books, and design books, and horticulture books. Some of them are like leadership, strategy planning, leadership capacity development, and areas on developing my growth in that aspect. And I also bought an iPad to take notes and be a little bit more organized in so many ways that also helped me to save time and energy in how I'm organized. So those are the areas how I spend some of my flex patterns.
Yeah, and you're really underscoring that is meant to be a very individualized and flexible resource, which is why we call it the flex curriculum. So we do have a number of fellows who do choose to invest in sort of business tools like an iPad. There's a very simple approval process that we have here. So if the fellow can make the case for why that is the tool of the hour, we typically move that forward. So, Mulligan, you mentioned sort of visiting places you thought you might want to go for field placement, and ultimately you decided to pursue that opportunity at Holden Forests and Gardens.
Yes.
What did you do during your time there?
So when we craft the objectives for going to Holden Forest and Garden for my field placement, where one of the objective I point out was my background in entrepreneurship gave me this leverage to really contribute in a way of entrepreneur business idea generation or any revenue generation ideas. And with the discussion from leadership team, both Holden and also Fellows Program Director Sharon, we felt like Holden was in that right place and right time. And then they were willing and interested to have me for those 2 months field placement and contribute my entrepreneurial input in revenue generation idea, also contribute on their strategic planning process because they were also in that period of reviewing their strategic planning and designing for the next 3 to 5 years. So I went there, and my 2 months was mostly spent really meeting with different department leaders, spending time on one-on-one, attending leadership meeting to really grasp and understand the organization. But at the same time, I led focus group discussions with major revenue generating departments. I think about 4 different focus group discussions that I led in both campuses, because there is the Arboretum and then the Botanical Garden campus in the city, which brought about 30 different department leaders and managers in those meetings to really share ideas, generate some revenue generating ideas, share their experience, the garden strengths and opportunities, so that I was able to craft and compile those findings and discussion points to say, like, there is an area and an opportunity for the garden to really elevate its offering this way that would contribute to the garden revenue generation idea. Also kind of shaping some of those strengths and opportunities also as an input for the strategic planning process. So in that way, I was able to lead those discussions, get those input from the staff, and also add a little bit of my background to say there's this opportunity to work on. But at the same time, I spent more time learning from the organization, because it was also a very good timing. The new leadership came into the garden, and the garden was also going through a lot of opportunities and learning learning opportunities for me, because I was attending the leadership meeting different leaders and visiting the gardens and having those conversations really enrich my experience in understanding leadership and organizational dynamics in general. So that was really perfect fit for me.
Well, for me, I'm hearing so clearly the exchange of value that happened there. You know, you being able to use your background and experience and learning from where they were as an organization. And that to me is also a big part of the cohort project, or the project that you work on as a collective of fellows. So can you give us some insight into that project, sort of how it takes shape, what it means, what it looks like, and what your experience with that has been?
the cohort project, right? So yeah, that, I mean, cohort project was, at first when you hear about it, it was like it's a very big part of the program. So it kind of scares you a little bit. But it always starts with really understanding the industry need. I think it starts from APJ and then inside APJ in some way. So our first input started from having those poster note sessions at APJ, really gathering inputs from different industry leaders to really share what are those challenges and opportunities they see in the industry, and compiling those notes that we gather from different people, really reviewing and seeing like where our strengths and where those opportunities really align, so that we can spend the next 6 to 8 months really diving into it, researching, having case studies, interviewing, meeting different garden leaders, and then combining something that would actually benefit the industry. So we did the same way, and then presenting it at APJ at the final our exit APJ conference meeting. So what really worked for us was we also come with different background. We have a combination of 5 of the fellows from different rich background experience, and really trying to understand what would be the best contribution for us based on the need in the industry. And instead of taking like just one word that was mentioned there, we really try to understand a lot more deeper into what is the need that might be benefiting from this project. So we did compile our data. I mean, the process of even designing, I mean, choosing the title and the project topic was a good challenge by itself. One, there are also other areas that everybody comes with a different interest and passion and commitment or even experience to say like, I can contribute a much more this way in an area I have more experience than an area that I don't have any experience. But creating that collective agreement and decision to say like, yes, this is a topic that we're going to work together with, all of us are going to commit our time in this area, was one process on itself, that team work, team decision making. But once those decisions were made, really investing time in researching, we had a lot of case study organization, survey questions that we sent out, asking over 50 public gardens to really input in addition to our poster session of understanding what is the need in the industry. We crafted a survey question with the help of Longwood staff as well to say how different gardens really understand those areas that we're trying to focus, and then getting those data, changing them into an input into the industry, but also adding a little bit more research by having case studies, selecting a few organizations that we want to focus on, and compiling different research from books and online materials that we have access to, really review a little bit deep. And then finally, we just submitted that last week, or right, it was almost a week ago, to say like, okay, this is what we really understand that would benefit the industry. This is our contribution. But at the same time, it's also our own learning process that we really understand a lot more about researching, writing, reflecting, and even really understanding the industry in a much deeper level than we knew before.
Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of work, and I think you have really done well. I'm excited for this one to come back from the printer and see what it actually looks like as an object in the world.
Yeah.
So we have talked about sort of the different parts of the program, but if we level up a little bit, what has been the most valuable part of this experience for you so far?
I think leadership assessment was, I think, one of the challenging but the most valuable one for me. Really to have that time to stop, pause, and reflect and see where is your leadership strength and how do you want to be really defined as a leader, and what are the most valuable ways, especially thinking of how different styles of leadership and how you lead really matter in so many ways. But identifying those areas of your strengths and also those areas that align with the need in the industry or in an individual or in an organization in some way, in a very focused way of like, what do really people need in that your leadership capacity, and then your leadership style, your approach into leading people into a much better success, full output for the organization. And there are so many theories, so many ideas, so many nice words out there. I mean, some of them you like them, some of them you don't even understand them fully, but really spending time and resource and someone really giving you that opportunity to actually take time to reflect on those values, understanding where your strengths lies and where the industry needs or human needs lies in that area of leadership and why you want to be a leader and why do people want to be led by you, really defining those terms and say like, okay, this is how I understand leadership. This is how I want to be a leader. And then these are the most important values because they align with my value in this way. And having those moments and opportunities, resources all around you through mentorship, observation, having those thought leaders, dinners or silent visit, books that you read, all those things really, I think, define this fellows program in a way that is really about heightening your leadership awareness and also really building your capacity as a leader. So I think that is the highlight for me.
How do you think your capacity as a leader has changed over the program so far?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know which one has changed yet because in some way I feel like I wonder, and I was really looking. I have this rich experience of really understanding leadership that much better than the way I understand it, and I have reflection in so many areas, and then I can't wait really to go out there and then really start to practice them. That's why I was like, I'm not sure which one has changed really, but at the same time, going back and reviewing some of the notes and some of the reflections that I have, the way I have understood leadership has completely changed. One area that I always, I think, underline is like uh, how my leadership from like this expecting, demanding, or like the approach that I used to have turned into a more coaching and empowering approach of leadership was like something that I always want to underline, especially in this moments of reflection and then having those discussions. How I understand currently leadership is really about empowering others. Leadership is really about coaching people in whatever situation they are to create that collaborations and also kind of value alignment instead of really expecting people to deliver something for you. Like, no, how do I make sure I am empowering those people? So I think that is one part that I want to really underline. But beside that, really having that self-awareness, whether it's through our emotional EQ assessment or conflict style management, like how we handle situation where we are stressed or in conflict, is like something I've never thought of. But like we have a different switch that just turn it and then like you respond differently than you would have in a normal situation. But having that tools and those opportunity to assess yourself and see like, oh, this is so true about me, but I've never really seen from leadership point of view, and then how that would actually become a challenge for you to be a better leader in that way. But having all those tools, whether you call it 360, or disc assessment, EQ, conflict style, all those assessments really give you that opportunity to just step back and really see where you are as a leader and then how you should approach different things and different scenarios.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you how many assessments you've done because I should know the answer, but there are so many. I've lost track. It's a
Yeah,
real
probably 10.
portfolio. Yeah.
But yeah, we've been assessed so well.
Uh-huh. Yeah, all for your own benefit. There's no permanent
Definitely.
file that this goes into.
Yeah.
What you're saying though, Mulukan, I think is tied to one of the questions that I see here in the Q&A. Someone is asking about whether they're at the right career stage. So they're coming out of a master's program, they are interested in horticulture and landscape designing, have been working in the field of arboriculture. Is this the right, will I be the right fellow to apply is the specific question. To my eye, yes, if you are interested in doing the people work associated with leadership. This is not a technical program. This is not where you will come to learn about landscape design, although we certainly have had plenty of landscape architects and designers who've been part of the program. This is really about doing the work with people to support organizations and bigger visions. So I'm thinking, for example, we do have a unit on master planning, so site planning, but it really focuses more on how to bring communities and stakeholders into that development process to make sure that people are contributing to a plan that makes sense for the organization. And it's less about doing, GIS work and the sort of technical like site mapping and that kind of thing. Is that a correct response from your perspective?
Yes, I think so because I have the same experience in some way. Because when I applied for the program, even though I have that extensive time of really processing the program, I've also thought I would learn a lot more about landscaping, plants, and things like that. But maybe my expectation was maybe 40-60, like I was expecting 60% maybe focus on leadership and management, and 40% have to be more technical. That was my general idea of or assumption about the program when I applied. But I think when I actually joined the program, maybe I don't know, I might be wrong with numbering that, but I would say 90-10 because 90% of the time we're really focused on people. Really, how do we be a better leader? How do we understand the leadership dynamics, organizational culture, teamwork, and assessing your strengths in leading teams and leading organizations? And then maybe a little bit about technical aspect. Maybe that is also with the immersion project that you can be part of any departments within Longwood, whether that is landscape design or outdoor landscapes, or you still can choose finance in that too, and then in that completely or management, and then focus more still on more leadership management related things. But if you have technical skill need to develop your leadership capacity, maybe build your confidence in some areas, you can still do a little bit of that through immersion project or volunteering through some of the gardens in Longwood or outside. But I think the program has a lot more focus on where you see yourself as a leader in the industry, public horticulture industry, and then how you can see that capacity can be built through this program.
Okay, we are coming up on time, so I have just two questions for you. One, you and I have just talked a lot about your individual leadership journey and kind of how you've approached this development process, but there are four other fellows here. What is it like to do that cohort work and to have that very close support network as you're going through this program?
Yeah, I mean, that is I think one of the strengths of the program in a way because everyone come with that same intention of really developing their capacity as a leader and also to contribute in a way for your leadership growth. So living together, working together, it always gives you that opportunity. It's not a competitive environment. It's more like a supportive, collaborative environment that would also challenge you in a way because there are always differences when you bring a lot of people together. And it could be idea differences. It could be where your strengths lies, where the other people's strengths is different from yours. So how do you create that balance of really understanding each other, listening, and also working collaboratively together? So for us, I think as a team, we really work well together. I really enjoy that part of it. In some way, I think the selection process was also very good in some way that we felt very close friends and work well, listen well, and collaborate in so many projects, even like non-formal things, whether we go to garden visits or spend some time out, whether eating out or like just listen to some fun activity, we always find something that complements each other's areas of interest and then also challenge us a little bit to do new things that we have not tried before. So in a way, there's so many interesting things that we did together. I think as a team coming together, working on projects was really a good challenge for you to develop as a leader and then also have that team spirit.
I think that's exactly right. And before I ask you my last question, I'm going to bring in two questions from the chat that are kind of on a similar theme. Folks who are looking to make a career transition, either from the corporate world or from academia. I think that both of those backgrounds can set you up for success in this program. The real task is to address why you are interested in building your leadership capacity, what you hope to do with the resources in this program to kind of move yourself, but also organizations and public horticulture forward as a sector. So I would say the 5 years of experience requirement does not have to be in horticulture, 5 years of professional or volunteer experience. The task is really to make clear in the application how you are connecting the dots and how this program fits into that career plan that you have. But again, this is not a technical sort of plant-focused program. This is much more focused on leadership, organizational behaviors, a little bit of management theory, even though that phrase should not be off-putting to anyone, but it's really about the people side of horticulture. So Mulukan, I am going to put our contact info on the screen while I ask you my last question, which
Yeah.
is, what do you wish you had known on your first day of being a fellow?
Hmm. What do I wish? Hmm. I don't know if I have any less information, I would say. I felt like I have enough time to prepare. I have less surprise, except the one that I mentioned earlier, which I thought has a lot more to do with technical horticultural skills, but it completely ended up being like more leadership in some way, which is actually exactly what I needed. So I was really good in that way. But the other thing is like even based on the comment that you just gave earlier, I think maybe most of the material we cover can be applicable in any industries. They're not really limited to public horticulture, but at the same time, all those meetings, garden salon meetings, visits in different, even APJ conferences, other conferences that we do, also have that ties with public horticulture in a way. Like most of that public horticulture knowledge is really somehow linked in that leadership capacity, but at the same time, those leadership awareness, leadership trainings, all those things have almost applicable for anything in any industry. It's not really limited to public horticulture. So I don't know. I wish I have known that before, but I don't know what it would change really because I'm so satisfied and happy that what I've learned was really applicable anywhere I wanted. And I was not also restricted from really engaging a lot more in public horticulture, visiting those public gardens and meeting different thought leaders that are highly focused. Even just walking in those gardens and meeting those people really inspired me in the industry to know a lot more and where I am and then my background in landscaping, whether it's through leading different teams in horticulture, landscape design, and different aspects of those departments. For me right now, it's more really that leadership capacity and then leadership growth. So it really felt like it's a perfect timing and a perfect program for me to grow as a leader.
Well, Mulukan, thank you again for sharing your experience as a fellow. For our guest today, we are at time. So for those of you who are tuning in or watching this recording later, please feel free to use any of the links on the screen to find more information. And please use the contact info here to get in touch. Both Mulukan and I are happy to continue the conversation with you individually. And thank you again for your interest in the Fellows Program and for making time to participate in this webinar today. Bye.